sunrise aligns perfectly with this chamber. What does it say? Let's do it. Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you to everyone who's watched, liked and commented on my videos so far. Now, I've had a few people asking about what I do for work. So today I thought I'd answer that question and take you along with me to see one or two of the local sites. But first, a little bit of backstory. In terms of employment history, I've chopped and changed a few times over the years. And probably at some point I'll do a deeper dive on that. But basically, most of my work history has been within the field of education. And let's just say it's been a love-hate relationship, because I absolutely love learning and I love teaching, but I'm not so keen on school. Do you know what I mean? And that's probably why more than once I've stepped sideways rather than forwards in my career, because there's always been a part of me that's really kicked against that traditional classroom format. I mean, I've done it and I've loved it and I've hated it in equal measure. Anyway, during lockdown I got into online teaching and I enjoyed it more than I was expecting. So I signed up to a few different teaching platforms online, and that's how I made a living in my first year or two living in Ireland. And it was fine, it was great for a while, until gradually it wasn't. And I realised I was starting to get a bit of cabin fever, because even a social hermit like me has their limits. So it just felt like time to start connecting more with my local community. So about a year ago, I landed a job as a cultural events coordinator, which is a bit of a catch-all, which suits me perfectly because I love the variety. But essentially, it's my job to support anything and everything that promotes local history, heritage and culture. So that includes events and workshops in things like traditional Irish music and dance, traditional crafts like basket making. And the irony isn't lost on me. Here I am, a Brit, working to nurture local Irish heritage. As far as I know, nobody local applied for the job. I get the feeling there's been a generation or two that sort of lost interest in more traditional aspects of life. But more recently, there does seem to be a growing resurgence of interest, albeit a small and gradual one. So it's my job to build on that. So it's a really rewarding way to utilise my teaching skills, even though the focus is a bit different. And just to be clear, I don't actually teach the classes myself. I'm just the organiser and the facilitator. So I spend a lot of time doing things like grant applications and liaising with local tutors to try and get courses and events up and running. But for reasons of everyone's safety and privacy, there is a limit to what I can show you. However, the good news is that some of my work happens out in the field, literally. Ireland is littered with thousands of historical sites, ring forts and passage tombs and holy wells, but many of them remain unexcavated and poorly maintained, basically due to lack of funding and resources. You know, same old story. But that's starting to change as well. So another aspect of my job is to learn a little bit about local history and, where necessary, seek funding to improve access to ancient sites, improve signage, and ultimately maybe create new heritage and tourist trails for people to walk on. Like this Ogham Stone, for example, here in County Mayo. We think this one dates from around the 4th to the 5th century, and it bears an inscription in the ancient Ogham script, which was the earliest form of Irish writing, which consists of these horizontal and diagonal lines, traditionally read from bottom to top. And if you look really closely, you can still see the Ogham inscription on this one. So what does it say? Well, I'd love to tell you it's some profound piece of wisdom or some magical incantation, but it's actually someone's name, Alatos. And the inscription reads, Alatos, son of... And unfortunately, weather damage has erased the remainder of Alatos's dad's name. Nevertheless, this weathered stone stands as a silent testament to a time when literacy was just emerging in Gaelic society, and their purpose may have been for recording names and genealogies, and or as territorial markers. And this is one of 12 recorded Ogham stones in County Mayo and one of over 360 across all of Ireland. And in fact, most of them are concentrated much further south. And as you can see, this site is quite overgrown. So I'm actually in the process of working with Mayo County Council to try and improve access and signage to this site and a few others in the area. But there's one site nearby that's beautifully preserved, and it's a real gem, and it's only down the road. I'm going to show you around one of County Mayo's hidden gems. This, the Kilcashel Stone Fort. So the fort consists of a circular dry stone wall measuring 30 metres in diameter, with walls up to 4 metres thick and 5 metres high, no doubt designed to keep invaders out. And being built on a small hill, it would have provided an excellent vantage point over the surrounding landscape, which quite likely back then was all woodland, because the name Kilcashel actually comes from Old Irish and means something along the lines of forest of the stone fort. Now, there are some really interesting features of this fort, one of which is the dry stone construction, which means that no mortar was used to hold the stones in place. Just the careful placement of these massive stones stacked so perfectly that they've held up for nearly 1,000 years. Now, historians believe this was built sometime during the early medieval period, so that would be sometime between around 600 to 1000 AD. And the fort also features what's known as a souterrain, which is an underground passage or small chamber, possibly used for storage or hiding places or even defensive escape routes. Local folklore suggests that this souterrain may have been part of an underground tunnel linking the fort to 2 others that used to be in this area. For the safety of cattle and visitors, this souterrain is now blocked and no longer accessible, which I know is a bit disappointing, isn't it? Damn health and safety. But do you know what isn't blocked off? These 2 little portals at the back of me, and they're connected. I've seen kids crawl in one side and pop out the other a few seconds later. So guess what I'm going to do today? But first, let me give you a bit more backstory. So when I first started my job, I was given a few boxes full of various things, old books, old notes, old archives, and in among them was a piece of writing and a collection of photographs by an American geologist and historian who was living nearby about 20 years ago. His name was John Granger. Now, if you have even a passing interest in ancient stone structures, especially circular ones like this, you might be asking yourself if there are any key features that line up with celestial movements like sunrise and sunset. And it turns out that our historian friend, Mr. Granger, had similar thoughts. Now, I'm not sure how thorough his research was. He does mention in his notes that heavy cloud cover made things difficult, but what I can tell you is that he was monitoring the sunrise as it aligns with those 2 portals, or chambers as he called them. And what he discovered is that the sunrise aligns with them on certain dates, occurring approximately 2 months before and 2 months after the winter solstice. To be more precise, what he found was that for 3 or 4 mornings around the 5th of October, the sunrise aligns perfectly with this chamber, flooding it with the first sunbeams of the day. Now, of course, as time goes on, the precise location of the sunrise moves, and in this case, as we look at the portals, the sunrise appears to move from right to left. And so, a couple of weeks later, on and around the 21st of October, the sunrise aligns perfectly with this chamber. But that's not all. The same thing happens 4 months later. The sunrise aligns with the first chamber on and around the 5th of February, and then a couple of weeks later, around the 21st of February, the sunrise aligns perfectly with the second chamber. And there are some other captivating details in this ring fort. Look at these V-shaped steps. There are actually 4 of them altogether, 1 on each side of the ring fort, with each set of steps pitched at a 45-degree angle from the ground and a 90-degree angle to each other. And look, you can climb up them. And then we have these 2 piles of stones, which were possibly small buildings at some point, but we can't be sure. Now, I think I know what you're thinking. Do they line up with the compass points? Well, this is where things get a little bit frustrating, because no, not really. No matter which way you slice it and dice it, none of the key features quite line up to the cardinal directions. They're just a bit off. So I don't know, I'm no expert, but I get the feeling there's a lot more to this place than we know about. I feel like it's just full of mysteries waiting to be discovered. So if there are any experts out there, any historians or archaeologists, then please come on over, let's have a poke around and see what we can find. Speaking of which, do you remember I said I've seen kids crawl into those portals and come out the other side? Let's do it. Oh, wow. Oh my God. Wow. Okay. So I guess this is what's known as an intramural chamber, or a passage, literally means within the walls. Now look, I'm about 5'4", 5'5", and I can't stand up, so I would say this is about, I don't know, 3.5 feet high, 4 feet high at the most. And look at that ceiling. I guess that would be a lintel roof. It's made of these massive flat stone slabs placed over the top. So what was it for? Well, theories include storage for food, like grains and dairy. It's noticeably cooler in here. Or it could have made a great defensive hiding place during an attack. Or there's always the possibility it had a more ritual or symbolic use. I don't know, I think this would make a great home for the fairies and leprechauns. Or a great fantasy novel. How about an Irish version of Outlander? Okay, let's see if I can get back out. This video is going to be a really grim find for someone if I don't. And what have we got here? Yes, ye oldie worldy sweetie packet. It's like that scene from The Descent. And there we have it, the Kilcashel Stone Fort. standing proud for over a millennium, still guarding its secrets. So if you're ever in County Mayo, I highly recommend making the journey to see this hidden gem for yourself. There's something quite magical about placing your hands on stones that were carefully positioned by people who lived over 1,000 years ago. But a quick health and safety disclaimer, please be safe. These ancient sites can be dangerous. You'll not see any safety ropes up there, and that crawl space, it's only for people who are leprechaun size. So if you do go crawling around in there, well, on your own head be it. And if you hang around too long, the fairies might take you. Anyway, feel free to drop me a comment below. If you've enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe and all that jazz. Thanks for watching, and until next time, Slán go fóill.